What you guys, got another video here for you. In this one we're going to be taking a look at how we can build your own computer with used eBay parts. Now the first part that I've got is the case here, which is the Spectrum case, which I had lying around, so I'm going to be using this one. Also we've got the Tomahawk MSI motherboard. This is the B350 motherboard, which I picked up as part of a bundle, and we'll be using that. We've also got the Ryzen 2400G with Vega graphics in here, but we're going to also put in our own graphics card, but that's what we're going to be using inside here. We've also got Vengeance RGB 16GB of 3200 MHz RAM as well, which we'll be using for our build, and also a 1070 Ti MSI Aero. Now this is a pretty decent card, and we're going to be using that in our build as well. Now I picked up one of these, which is the Adata 256GB. Now this is brand new, but there was a used one in there which I'm going to be removing. Also I picked up this, which was a Kingston 512GB solid state drive, which was on special, so I picked that up as well. Okay, so I've got our motherboard here, which is the Tomahawk B350, and a socket M.2 socket on here for the CPU, which is our Ryzen 5 2400G. Now first off, I'm going to put some compound on here. Now this is not a complete how to build your own computer. This is basically showing you steps that you can take to buy second-hand parts or used parts and build your own computer for Christmas nice and cheap. So I've got the compound on here. Use the bag to spread the compound. You can use the blob method. There's no wrong way of spreading compound. You can do it which way you like. Just going to add the back plate on and screw this down to the motherboard. Now building computers has never been easier in the modern day, and some people do make a big deal out of it, but it's really easy to do, and everyone should have a go at building their own computers. You don't need any electrical screwdrivers or anything like that. You just use a screwdriver. The screws are far too small for electrical screwdrivers. You're just going to end up stripping the screws, so just use a normal screwdriver. This is the case we're going to go for here, which is the Game Max case, which is a Spectrum PC gaming case, and I'm going to be taking a look and putting all the bits in here. And it's got plenty of grommets in here and ways to route your cables around the back, so it should look quite tidy once it's been completed. Now we do have 3 fans in the front here, which are RGB fans, which will look quite nice when they're all lit up. So first off, I need to release the tools from the back panel here. They're hidden in the hard drive caddy, so I'm just going to remove these. Now these are all plastic, these hard drive caddies. You can hide the 3.5-inch drives at the back here, 2 of them as you can see, and there's another 2.5-inch on there as well, and also on the front you do have a couple of 2.5 inches. Now these are all your screws that you're going to need to mount the motherboard and all your other bits and pieces that you want to mount to your computer. So as you can see, looking at the back panel here, we do have a 2.5-inch bay here and 2 3.5-inch here as well. Plenty of grommets and places to route your cables through, so it looks nice and tidy. And of course we do have some cable ties already on here, but you can add more on if you really want to get sort of OCD and really have it ultra clean. Nice big opening here for your backplate. If you want to change the backplate, you can do via this method. Even with the motherboard in there, you can change it. Now also you've got your fan control hub here, which is going to be velcroed on here. Got your IO shield, so if you're buying second-hand parts, make sure the IO shield is included, otherwise you may run into issues and it be open at the back, and you don't really want that. So just make sure you got that included in the kit when you buy it. So this just pushes in place really. Sometimes it can be a bit tricky, but it should be okay to just push in with your fingers. If you have a bit of trouble pushing it in there, get your screwdriver around the back and just push on against it and it should click into place. Okay, so let's move on to the motherboard. Let's get the motherboard into the case. Now make sure the screws are mounted on the case correctly. They normally come pre-mounted here, and I've already checked these and they are exactly in the right place for mounting this particular type of motherboard. Now just check on here what a motherboard suit and fit what type of cases. Now I'm just going to offer this up here and slot it in the back IO shield here, and then once we've got that into place, I can screw down the motherboard. Now make sure the screws are in the right location, otherwise you're going to end up shorting the motherboard, and you don't want to do that. So just check and double check to make sure they are in the right locations before you rough up the screws, and then just tighten those down really, and it's that simple. Now remember, when searching for used parts, is to do your research. Make sure that you've got plenty of power to run the graphics cards that you're choosing. Remember, modern day graphics cards are not as power hungry as some of the older type graphics cards out there. Some of them have 2 8-pins to draw power for that graphics card, so you will need a pretty hefty power supply to run cards like that. So just bear that in mind if you are buying used parts on eBay. Try and get a nice balanced PC so you're not bottlenecking. So don't just go and buy a really fast graphics card and then cheap out on a CPU and cheap out on your power supply, because you're going to run into big trouble. Now you can see here we're going to change this drive out here. I'm just going to remove this and put in a 256 here, which I had here, so it's an Adata one, so I just want to put 256. The other one in here was 128GB Kingston, which come with part as a bundle, but I'm going to be replacing that, so I just want to take that out and put a 256 in. And I've also got a 512GB Kingston, which I want to put in here as a bit of storage as well. Now these screwdriver sets, you can pick these up pretty cheap. If you want to get yourself one of these, I'll leave the links in the video description if you're interested in those. And yeah, just replace this out. And sometimes you don't get the ones like this. Sometimes you may find older mechanical drives that you can use, and I would advise you to be very careful when buying used hard drives on eBay, especially some of the older ones. They may be a bit clunky, and don't pay too much for them, and just do your research. So I'm just going to slot this Adata drive in here and then screw it down with a little screw. Now try not to cross thread this. These are really tricky to get in, and they can really easily cross thread, and they're a bit fiddly, and when you get as old as me and your eyesight's going, it's not fun, I can tell you that, because it's really hard to screw these in, and it's not easy to do it with the tripod in the way as well. So just take your time, and you should be okay. Now if you're looking for other YouTube channels that do used parts and buy those on eBay and places like Gumtree, then I'll put a link in the video description for you, which is Brian's Tech Yes City. He does some pretty cool stuff, and he seems to get quite a few bargains. It seems to be a lot cheaper in Australia. So I'll leave his link in the video description. So let's get this memory in, and managed to get this as part as a bundle, which is pretty decent memory, and we're going to be putting this in here. And this is DDR4, so obviously it's not old school, it's quite new, and I got it for a pretty good price, and I'm hoping to do a quick flip on this and make a few quid out of it. So I'm going to get these in, and these are 3200 megahertz Corsair RGB RAM, which is around about 150 to 170 pounds I think for 2 sticks. So it's pretty expensive stuff, and I seem to get a pretty good deal here. Now what I'm going to do here is plug in the fan header for the CPU, and as you can see here, we're just going to put in the power supply. Now sometimes I put the power supply in first, it depends on what case I'm working on, but this is an open case, which means I'm not working inside a closed sort of shroud there where I have to feed everything in, and if it's one of those then I tend to put it in first, but because it's quite open, I can put it in at any time I like really. So I'm just going to put it in now to get the cables done, and this is just held in by 4 screws. There's no difficulty in putting power supplies in. Choosing the right power supply. Now I've got this one here, which is a Corsair HX750i. It's a bit overkill for what I need, but it's a very powerful power supply, and it's a very good power supply, and you're looking at a platinum power supply here. So I'll stick that in the case here, and it's got its own modular ribbons here, which means you can just plug them in and take out what you want, so I don't have to have vast amounts of cables in the case that I don't want, because I can't hide them because there's no sort of cover there to cover the power supply. Now you can have the fan facing up. You'll notice I've got the fan facing up there. You can have it facing up or face it down. It's entirely up to you how you want it. I'm going to have that facing up on this one, and just 4 screws. So I'm just going to whack these 4 screws in, and I'm doing this left-handed and I'm actually right-handed, but the tripod and the camera and the light is in the way here, so it's making it a bit more difficult to try and get you the shot that you want to see. So basically I'm going to screw this in here. So let's just screw these in and get them tightened down, and there we go, we're pretty much good to go. Now also another thing, as I said, you kept the filter on here is facing down, so I can have the power supply flip round the other way if I wanted to and have it drawing downwards. Sometimes I'm going down, sometimes I'm going up, but in this case I'm going to have it going up just like so, and it just depends on how you want to do it, and you can have it either way. So there's a little grommet here where I can feed the cables through. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because I don't want cables going up the right hand side and making it look really nasty, so I'm just going to try and get as much cabling out the back so you don't see the cabling. So I need to put a couple more on there, which is the Molex one and also the SATA, so I'll add those in a second. I'm just going to pull this in up here, just try and move this up a bit so you can see it. Let me just pull this through. There we go. So I'm just going to move that up. Now this is your 24 pin, so I'm just going to plug that into the board here. So that means you don't see the cable going right across, and I want to try and keep that nice and tidy. Now sometimes with a cover there you won't see the actual power supply, and it does look a lot nicer, but in this case you don't seem to have that. And this is about £100 case, so it's a pretty pricey case. Now I did want to put the CPU one in, so I just need to run that through, and this is for the power to the board, so I'm just going to run that through and come out up the top. Now sometimes if you're lucky there's a little notch out the top where you can just run the cable round, and I've got my PCI Express cable here, which is for the graphics card, so I'll just leave that down there and we'll use that a little bit later on. So putting the CPU cable in, so I'm just going to poke it through this little hole here. Now most cable cases will have this little hole here. Try and find a route up the top so you can get it through, and once you get that through it means you're not having a cable going all round your case inside, and you should see it poking out just up the top left hand corner there. I'm just going to push that in and that should give it power. Now I could have gone for a water cooled system here or closed loop water cooled system in here, but the cooler for the CPU is pretty good on these Ryzen, so I'm going to keep it. Now I picked up this Kingston for, I think it was around about £58. It was on offer, so I thought I'd snag that and put this in here. Now I can put them in the front if I want to, but there's a little space around the back, so I'm going to put it around the back because there'll be probably less cables. But yeah, these are pretty decent. It doesn't really matter what solid state drive you get for storage really. I'm just going to stick it in there and it should be fine. Now I wish I could have put a 1TB in here. The reason why I picked this one up is because, like I said, it's on super special offer, and they were charging that much for second-hand ones, so I just ended up buying a new one. So just do your research as well. Make sure you check the prices for new and second-hand, because sometimes the new ones are just as cheap. So just do your research there. So I'm just going to route the cables through here and come through and put it in this back section around here, and hopefully that should be okay. So it's just held on with one screw here, so I'm just going to remove this and get this onto the back of the computer. Now obviously you won't see nothing around here, and also it will mean less cables, which is what I'm after. I want a nice clean look around the front. Now stay tuned in a week, because I've got another video coming up about transferring that old Dell Optiplex that I bought into a new case, and also putting some RGB in there, making it look a little bit more modern, and hopefully flip it and get rid of it and make a few quid. So that's a video that I've got coming up in the week, so stay tuned for that one. Now this one here, all I need to do here is put in the solid state drive back into the caddy. Now it's the tallest design, and I'll put the cables in and then screw it back on here, so that shouldn't take too long, just getting the drive onto the tallest design. There's a lot of dust on the back of that for some reason. I'll have to give that a blowout before I'll seal this up. So let me just screw this back on. There we go. So I've already got the cables in here just to save time. It looks a bit messy at the moment, and we'll sort them cables out a little bit later on. So let's move on to the next step here. So what I'm going to do here is just pull these through. Now this is the SATA cable here, which needs to be tidied up, so I'll tidy those up in a bit. Now it's always good to make sure you get power onto your motherboard before you put it all in like this, because obviously it's going to save you time. Now we've got the USB 3.0 here, and I just want to show you here, some of these Chinese cases are a bit weird. If I come through these little grommets here, it's not in line with the USB 3.0 connector here, and it just makes it very awkward. So what I'm going to do is slip it through this little gap here, so it just goes straight into this little socket here. So it just worked out perfectly by going there. So sometimes with these non-branded type cases, you do need to work with them and try to find a little way around doing things, because sometimes they're a bit weird the way they've designed them. So what I'm going to do here now is push the USB and audio cables for the front header on the case here, and look at those mustard and ketchup cables here. They look nasty, multicolored rainbow cables. So I'll just probably put a bit black tape on those and just cover them up a little bit, just to make them look a bit nicer. Now again, this is an £100 case, and looking at those cables, it doesn't look quite nice. So I will put a bit of tape on there, but again, it wouldn't have took much for them to put a bit more heat shrink up to the end, so you can hide the cable. Now I'm getting the torch out here because I'm trying to see what is written on the board there. Now I don't have a user manual for the board, so normally the audio is in that left hand corner, so I'm just going to quickly put that over here and plug it in. Now sadly my eyesight is deteriorating pretty badly, and I have trouble plugging little cables in nowadays, even with my glasses on. It's really bad. So I'm just going to have a little look here, make sure that's okay. And also we've got the RGB cable to plug in here as well, and the USB is in. So let me quickly just put some tape around those to make them look a little bit more tidier. It's not ideal, but it will just look a little bit better, and it won't draw your eye to it. So when you're looking in there, you won't be able to see those colour rainbow sort of cables there, which do stick out like a sore thumb. So I'm going to get some tape and put them round. There we go. It just looks a bit better. That's my OCD kicking in there. So yeah, let me just get that done. So what I'm going to do now is run a cable through here. You can see that looks a lot better. So what I want to do is run that RGB cable round and try to put that over in that corner. It's got to go over where the audio HD cable has gone, which is right round the other side. And to be honest with you, the cable is not long enough. It just needs to be a little bit longer. So I'm going to have to come out the side way, because I was going to go up the top and then come down the bottom, but it's not long enough. And this is for the RGB on the actual cooler, so I can't go up here, so I'm gonna have to go down near the 24 pin and come out there, which means I'm gonna have to route the cable round the memory there, which is not how I really wanted to do it, but I'll have to do it because that's the only way I can do it, unless I get an extension, which I haven't got to hand. I could use an extension cable here, but I'm just going to pull this through, and for now I'm just going to put that there like so. But I can get an extension, and then I can go up through the top and you won't see it. It should be lost, so that'd be okay. I can live with that. So I'll just come down the bottom here and poke this through, and I should just have enough cable there to get to the corner. So let me just poke this through this little hole, and hopefully we should be able to get that onto the RGB pin. They've got that right at the end there. I mean, it's right out of the way. And we'll just plug that in. I don't think there's any other ones on the board. I think that's the only RGB one on the board. So just let me try and put it on. It's got these little 4 round holes that you need to plug onto the 4 little pins. So you're slightly out of shot there, and there's a little arrow on there, and you need to get it in the right way. So that's okay, and I need to tidy up this cable here. I'll get a little cable tie on that a little bit later on. So that's about as best as I can get it right now. And obviously we've got those two gaping holes there where the hard drives, solid state drives go, which looks a bit gnarly, but I suppose with the back panel on there you won't see that as much. So we'll take a look at the next step here, what I want to do, which is doing the little cables here. Now I'll put a little diagram up here. Now they normally get this in the user manual, but you can get these online and it shows you where to put them if you're not familiar with it. I'm pretty familiar with it, but I'm just going to show you exactly where they go. But what's really important really is to get your power ones in the right place so you can power it on. Now this didn't come with a reset button either. I didn't find the reset one for the reset button, so not sure why that is. So I'll just plug this in. There we go. So we've got all those in now, and these are so the PC can power on from the front panel, and we'll get those in. Can cable tie those a little bit later on. So what I need to do now is push a Molex connector through, and the reason why I need a Molex, I could have come off the SATA with a little connector so I don't have to have this big massive ribbon through here. I like to do that sometimes to cut back on cable, but what I'll do is I'll just push this Molex one through, and this is for the RGB fans, so I just need to push that through there. There's a lot of dust in that case. So let's move on to the fans and get the fan hub put in, and also get those front RGBs there. So you can see the ribbons here. Now I would have liked to put 3 more of those in, but you only get 3 with the case. But this can take up to, I think it's 3, 4, 5, 10, up to 10 fans on that hub. Now these fans are only designed for this hub, so you can't use any other type of RGB fan. This fan and these hubs have to be together, so you have to get exactly the same fans of what's in here, and you can get them from their store. I've noticed that, so that would have been good to put another 2 more up the top just to hide that gaping hole where a water cooler would have gone. So I can put probably 2 up there, and also one at the back just to make it look nicer, but I don't want to go overkill with it, so I'll leave that as is for now. And got those plugged in. Just going to put the power to this down the bottom and then stick it on this Velcro here. There we go. So that's in place, and it looks a bit messy at the moment because I haven't cable tied everything back, and I just need to try to get the cable ties around there and tidy up those cables a little bit. Now I'll probably put some of the cables inside the 3.5 inch drive bay there at the back, because they're not being used right now, so I can tuck some of those cables in there. Now I'm trying to get the remote control sensor poked through the front, so that when you're using the remote control it will be able to change the color of the lights on the front if you want to, that is. And it does have a bunch of patterns on there as well, and also breathe mode and all that sort of stuff. So I'll give it a quick tidy up here and tied some of it back. It could be a bit better, but that will do for this one. I can always tidy this up a little bit later on off camera, but you can see that looks good enough when I've got the panel on there, as long as it's looks okay. I mean, you're never going to get it perfect because obviously there's a lot of cable in there, and you can spend a long time just doing the cabling. Now you can't do much about that CPU cable going across there. That's just going up the top. That's as good as you're going to get that. So I'm going to remove these 2 screws here for the graphics card here, and get the graphics card in. And the graphics card's been stripped down and completely overhauled, i.e. new pads on there, and also new thermal paste, and cleaned the fans out. Now if it's a blower graphics card, you're going to need to make sure that you do that, because obviously they are prone to getting dust bunnies inside, because it's got one fan that spins at high revs and then pulls the dust and dirt through, so, and it blows hot air out the back here. That's where the hot air comes out. So It's a blower graphics card, so just bear that in mind. So I've cleaned all that out to make sure it's nice and clean. And that's a 1070 Ti, which is pretty nice. No backplate on there, which was a bit of a disappointment. But I cleaned that up with the old contact cleaner to get rid of all the dust and stuff. So I've got that in place here. We do have an 8-pin that we need to put in there. I'm just going to put these 2 screws in. And I'm trying to get that second one in. It's a bit fiddly there. There we go. Just push that into position. There we go. And it's difficult to do this with the camera and tripod in place, but you've got them in place now. So all I need to do now is put up the PCI Express cable here, and I'm just going to push this into its location. And once we get this in, we can just do a bit more cable management here, tidy up a little bit. So you can't really do much with this cable. It looks unsightly the way it is, so I'm just going to cable tie this a little bit better, just to make it look a bit nicer so it doesn't stick out. And you should see it there, it looks a lot better once you cable tie that a little bit better. So just try and keep everything nice and tidy, especially where your eye view is. So let's pull off this plastic here and take a look. And that's the actual finished article there. I've just got to give it a quick blowout of dust because there was a little tiny bit of dust in there which I weren't happy with. But overall, I would have liked to put a water cooler up there, which we didn't have. I've got a fan at the back which I may take off. And yeah, I've got you can rotate this up the other way if you wanted to. You can have it facing down if that's your choice, or have it up. It's entirely up to you. And I'm pretty sure people in the comments are going, you should have flipped that round the other way. You know what they're like. You're going to get them all coming out of the woodwork. So yeah, I think it looks alright. Looks pretty good, especially for used parts. And this is what it looks like with it all switched on. Looks quite nice, and I think all in all it turned out pretty good. And I'm pretty sure when I get rid of this, when I sell it, someone will be quite happy with it. Now if you are interested in buying this, then let me know in the comment section, send me a private message or something like that, and I'll sort something out. But yeah, it's a pretty decent bit of kit. It's a nice nice built system, and it will be going on eBay. So if you are interested in buying a decent computer this Christmas, then let me know, and I'm pretty sure we can sort something out. I may even deliver it to you myself if you're close enough. Now you'll probably see the PSU fan not spinning up there, and that's pretty normal. It doesn't need to spin unless it needs to, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to be even spinning for long periods because there's not much need for it with this sort of build. But you can see it looks pretty stunning really, and I'm pretty pleased it turned out really well. And I will be listing this one up. So if you are interested, let me know in the comment section below what you think I should sell this for and what you think it's worth, and we'll see who comes close to what I think it's worth. And all in all, I think it's turned out pretty well. So to stay tuned for some more content like this. I will be doing some benchmarks on this. Let me know if you want to see this benchmark with some games, and I'll do that for you. Anyway, I hope you thoroughly enjoyed the video. These videos do take a lot of time, and this is why I don't do these types of videos regularly, because obviously the time involved. But anyway, my name is Brian from briteccomputers.co.uk. Thanks again for watching, and thanks for your continued support. Bye for now. Now if you haven't subscribed yet, hit the big red subscribe button on my YouTube channel and hit the bell notification button next to that to be notified when we upload new videos.